Thank you, Reverend Brian. It was just wonderful to finally meet you in the flesh, all of you. And it's just been so wonderful to work with him and with you all through him this past year. I just want to echo Brian's greetings, how good it is to take this challenge that this of isolation and separation that this terrible pandemic has foisted upon us, and for us to use it to deepen our connection to one another and to truly cultivate a relationship between, among, and beyond us here in San Mateo County. So there is so much more we can do together. The great American scholar, teacher, and activist Bell Hooks says that beloved community is formed not by the eradication of difference, but by its affirmation, by each of us claiming the identities and cultural legacies that shape who we are and how we live in the world. As Unitarian Universalists dedicated to cultivating relationships, we begin this hour of worship by acknowledging our relationship to the land on which we gather. Here on what is now called the San Francisco Peninsula, we acknowledge that it is the unceded ancestral lands of the Ramaytush Ohlone people, and we speak of the legacy of colonization which continues without reparation and little recognition. With this practice, we are invited to open our hearts and recognize also the authentic relationship we have to the land, to its stewardship and the ways we walk upon it and relate to it, which is the heart of all such land acknowledgements. It is a small but essential step in the reconciliation process between ourselves as settlers upon this land and the continuation, health, and restoration of the original indigenous people who continue to dwell upon it. So in this spirit of recognition, of cultivation, and of deepening our relationship with the land and its people, I light this chalice of our faith. May we affirm and promote the ways in which we bring our lives dependent upon the land, dependent upon that connection to one another. May it be so for us.
I'm going to speak today on the topic of hospitality and the first principle. Hospitality is an opening of the heart and the extension of compassion. It is an act of justice. We see the expression of hospitality in the words of the first principle that calls for the recognition of the inherent worth and dignity of every person. The Unitarian Universalist Association Commission on Institutional Change outlined how this is relevant to every Unitarian Universalist congregation in the form of reparations. Reparations means repair. The Commission on Institutional Change report, Widening the Circle of Concern, identified reparations for African chattel enslavement as a particular focus. But by doing so, it did not mean that there are not other communities who have been injured and are in need of repair. But the injury to people of African descent as a result of African chattel enslavement and its vestiges relates to the essence of the Unitarian Universalist first principle. The National Coalition of Blacks for Reparations in America, NCOBRA, identifies 5 injury areas resulting from African chattel slavery: peoplehood or nationhood, also education, health, criminal punishment, And lastly, but no less importantly, wealth and poverty. The first fundamental and foundational injury as described by NCOBRA is peoplehood and nationhood. Now, my friend, Minister Ari Meredizan, likes to describe this injury as taking people of African descent from under the cover of God. African chattel slavery excluded them from access to the rights articulated in the Declaration of Independence as unalienable rights endowed by their creator. The author of this aspirational document, these inspirational words, this idealistic concept was alienating African people from the same professed rights. They were denied the first principle, their inherent worth and dignity, by the document's author and the society who demanded it for themselves. The dehumanization of the African personality in the European imagination has been enshrined in the ultimate othering of the human family, in the concept of race. It provides the basis for attributing policy decision impacts on personal deficiency outcomes. It provides a graphical measure of your humanity by the absence or presence of melanin. Those who are melanin deficient are considered fully human. Those who are melanin enhanced are considered less than human. But race is a biological fiction. It has social and political, even power implications, but remains a fiction, not a fact. The international definition of reparations includes restitution, compensation, rehabilitation, cessation with a guarantee of non-repeat, and satisfaction. These remedies align with the NCOBRA 5 injury areas, but they are designed to address, assert, and restore the first principle, the inherent worth and dignity of every person. To accomplish this requires full repair. Full repair includes attention to all 5 remedy areas. In popular culture, the concept of reparations is associated with compensation, money only. Compensation is necessary, but compensation alone is insufficient, especially in the context of African chattel slavery reparations. Full repair requires respecting the first principle, the inherent worth and dignity of every person. Reparations means repair. It is not about a broken labor contract where you are made whole by paying the money owed. It's about a broken covenant between members of the human family. And it is a political imperative to heal the body politic, but more importantly, it is a theological imperative. Hospitality is based on the same theological imperative as reparations. Hospitality is described as honoring the stranger or providing for guests, and though not stated, implied is a recognition that the stranger or guest is worthy of the treatment. We have a tradition of the dehumanization of the African personality in the European imagination, in US society and culture. Reparations includes the process of repairing the broken covenant in the human family that made and maintains the ideas, of white supremacy and Black inferiority. Healing this hurt, fixing this fracture, binding this breach prepares us, assists us, allows us to do the important theological work of the first principle. Now, the international definition of reparations, in addition to compensation, includes rehabilitation, both physically and mentally. It includes cessation of the offending behavior and a guarantee of non-repeat. It includes satisfaction, which is acknowledging harms and providing public markers and memorials. But where reparations and hospitality intersect is with the first principle. Where reparations and hospitality becomes relevant in places and spaces where there are no Black or melanin enhanced faces is in uplifting the first principle and addressing the Cobra defined injury of peoplehood and nationhood and the international reparations remedy of restitution. To live the first principle requires us to appreciate and accept the dignity and worth of the entire human family. For that to occur in American society, it requires reparations. The Commission on Institutional Change report identifies several actions that congregations can take. Some congregations can support caucus efforts by marginalized congregants within their marginalized congregants. Some congregations can administratively and or financially support marginalized congregations. These are some of the things that the Widening the Circle of Concern Commission on Institutional Change report identifies. But there are also opportunities for Unitarian Universalists to engage in reparations, to engage in repair individually, and to engage in the theological work of repairing the broken covenant that racism and white supremacy represents. Individually, we have the opportunity to focus on healing the broken beliefs that equate the lack or of presence, the lack or the presence of melanin as a meter of a person's humanity. Theologically, we can extend our personal practice of this first principle into our political action and public witness. I encourage you to join or support an organization that advocates for reparations and repair. I encourage you to promote legislation and support public policy that aims to heal the hurt and bind the broken covenant through reparations. Now, I'm sure there are some of you who may wonder, why this group and not that group? Or why me, since I am not one of them, with them being the original offending group or the original injured party? But those questions are only relevant if you are ignoring the first principle, if you are engaging in the othering designed to keep the current social system in place, if you accept the view of the human family that results from the fragmented images produced by the broken covenant. Once the heavy lifting and difficult work of changing attitudes and changing actions, starting with ourselves, begins to occur, we can truly widen the circle of concern with our hospitality. May it be so. Blessed be.
Thank you, Larry, for bringing that rendition of Poor Wayfaring Stranger to us as we work on our attitudes and our actions. We are blessed by the message that we heard today that ignites in us, hopefully, the promises and the possibilities from all the ways that the Spirit has moved us here this morning. We do give thanks to our guest, Mr. Woullard Lett, for his words of vision and inspiration. We give thanks too for all of these people whose dedication and talents made this worship possible. All the technicians, will you wave? I'm going to wave to you. They're waving. We're waving to you. Technicians, the musicians, thank you, thank you. All those behind the scenes to help make this, help shape our ability to be together in this special way. And now it is time to prepare to leave this place in the presence of one another. But before we sing our closing song and extinguish our mutual flames and move back into the world, not as it was, but as it will become, let us meet the needs of the world with this call to action. And first, I just want to give a shout out to those of you from this congregation who joined others, Unitarian Universalists, at the Remembrance and Rally of Chinedu Okobi last Sunday. There were over 50 people at this event, and clearly more than a quarter of them were Unitarian Universalists. So I appreciate all the ways that we've moved to meet the needs of the world. And I do want to remind us that it is National Coming Out Day. Someone may come out to you, or you yourself. May you have the courage to claim that identity for yourself and be met with a world that welcomes you safely and celebrates who you are and who you are becoming, who you are claiming. And now, in recognition of Indigenous Peoples Day and the continuing ongoing work ahead of us to grow in our allyship, we are inviting you now to pull out your calendars to plan to attend an online masterclass sponsored by the Redbud Resource Group entitled Going Beyond Land Acknowledgements. So please set aside this time and a date on your calendars. It's Saturday, November 16th from 10 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. More details will be sent out for the registration, but the call is for all of us to gain skills and strategies to successfully address the inequities, the disparities that exist in our communities, to improve our understanding of the challenges that faced by contemporary Native peoples in relation to our own lives, and to connect with like-minded, like-hearted people who can support us in our diversity, equity, and inclusion goals. When is it? Saturday, November 16th, 10 a.m. to 12:30. Set your calendar now. Registration information will be shared. Thank you for being here this morning. From wherever you are, thank you for being here. Let us all enter into the spirit of our closing song, I Know I Can Go On, written by Dennis Hamilton and Jeannie Cagney, sung by Joel Chapman. I Know I Can Go On. If you are at home, sing along with gusto so we can hear you. Those of you who are here, move your body, moved by the Spirit, and gather up all that feeling and energy, and blessings all.